All, this is Dr. Mubin Sayed from drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So, first of all, I am using a different software to broadcast today. If any lags or issues, my apologies. So, the discussion today is very interesting. There is a study that is funded by FDA. The study is about finding various signals, safety signals, after the vaccination with Moderna, Pfizer BioNTech, and Novavax in pediatric population. And the pediatric population that is receiving the vaccines is 6 months old to 17 years. I'll give you the summary right now. Out of 21 various signals that they were monitoring, they found myocarditis and pericarditis as a statistically significant signal. And they said, we knew about this before as well, so this kind of verifies that that signal is present, safety signal is present, or danger signal is present. They found a new signal that was not caught before in children 2 years to 5 years of age, and that is seizures and convulsions. So that is the discussion. The study is still in a preprint. I think it would be published. There doesn't seem to be any issues with the study itself. So let's look at the study and then we would go from there. So quickly, here are the references. So this is drbeen.com. And in the description of this video, there are links to have access to drbeen.com for another 900 lectures over there. This is the study, MED-RXIV, safety of monovalent BioNTech Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, Moderna, and Novavax COVID-19 vaccines in US children aged 6 months to 17 years. This is the PDF. I have the PDF separately opened as well. This would be an interesting thing to keep in mind when you are looking at this study, and that is, when did the vaccine become authorized or approved for children 6 months and older, so 5 to 6 months? That was 18 June 2022. This study is after that, so mid 2022 to mid 2023. The study is published as a preprint on 15th of October 23. Now, before we go further, just wanted to give you another view here. This is the stock for Pfizer. So if you see here, Pfizer in 2021, December 2021, it was at $59.48. At this time, they're at $31.19. And they are starting $3.5 billion cost cutting because their COVID-related revenue is not as expected. Similarly, this is Moderna. Moderna, if you see before, this is 5 years stock, before the COVID time, 2020, their price was $18.89. So they were fluctuating 13, 20, so on. Then during the pandemic, this is September 10, 2021, they went up to $449, from $20 to $449. And they also have come back to $82.37. So these organizations aren't doing very well, at least on COVID. Now with this, let's actually look at the study with some of my drawings. Most of this study is text, so we'll see. So as I said before, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, Novavax is part of this study as well, but there were so few people, children, who received Novavax, and there were so few side effects that there was not actually enough data to work with that. I want to show you this as well. This is acknowledgement in the manuscript, and that is the US Food and Drug Administration provided funding for the study and contributed as follows. The reason I'm showing this is this study is actually conducted by FDA. The design of the study, the interpretation of the study, writing of the manuscript, decision to submit, etc., that all is under the supervision of FDA. Data sources. So what they did was they took 3 commercial databases where the insurance claims are reported or present. So Optum, then Carelon, and then CVS Health. So what they did was they had these databases available to them, to this research team, and as the children were getting vaccinated, they would continue to look for the record from these children in these databases to see what kind of pathologies, or as they call them, safety signals, were observed within few days to weeks of the vaccination. There were total 21 signals that they were looking for. 2 of the signals were statistically significant: myocarditis, pericarditis, and seizures. So study's objective. The study evaluated 21 pre-specified health outcomes after the vaccination in 6 to 17 years of children. Now, what was the total outcome? Remember, in the US, children under 5 years of age are about 20 million. Although they went for the whole pediatric population, which is about 80 million. So 4.1 million vaccinated children were part of this study. 6 months to 17 years of age pediatric population that was eligible for vaccines, 3 commercial databases. And as you can tell from my diagrams over here, I have no idea how to draw in a consistent fashion. The problem for me is making children and young adults and how to make them cartoony. So please, my apologies for this inconsistency in diagrams. So first, in their primary analysis, myocarditis or pericarditis signals were detected following BioNTech Pfizer vaccine in children aged 12 to 17 years. 12 to 17 years, Pfizer BioNTech vaccine had myocarditis, pericarditis, and that verified the previous studies and reports. Not Moderna, and Novavax wasn't enough data. So keep this in mind, 12 to 17 years. The seizures was actually Moderna and Pfizer both, and between 2 to 5 years of age. So seizures, convulsions signal were detected following vaccination with Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna mRNA 1273. So I would So this is new to them and new to us. To them, I would not say really new because they were looking at this data from mid 2022 and kept on going till mid 2023. So I'm sure that they were looking at the signals. I am surprised that this message never popped up anywhere in their debriefs. The conclusion and relevance of the 2 signaled outcomes, the myocarditis or pericarditis signals are consistent with previously published reports. The new signal detected for seizures, convulsions among younger children should be further investigated in a robust epidemiological study with better confounding adjustments. So there's a question, M. Gregory says, what kind of seizures? So seizures, brain seizures, epilepsy-like seizures, they were febrile seizures. So there was fever plus seizures. Conclusion further, they write, and this is very interesting. There is a statement in here that I think will alert you. Conclusion: our study detected a signal for myocarditis pericarditis in older children, which is consistent with existing literature, and a new signal for seizures, convulsions in young children that is being further evaluated in a more robust study. Check this statement out. FDA concludes that the known potential benefits of COVID-19 vaccination outweigh the known and potential risks of COVID-19 infections. So their conclusion still is keep going. I find it difficult to see that this would be the conclusion, considering that children were, to a greater extent, so I had presented a study from UK. I believe it was from Oxford. In that study, they had children who were unvaccinated, and they had the COVID-related severe side effects. Those children that had comorbidities or terminal conditions, these children had a greater impact, or they had severe outcome from COVID as well. Healthy children didn't. That doesn't mean healthy children don't get severe outcomes, but this has to be studied further instead of just simply saying FDA concludes that the known and potential benefits of COVID-19 vaccination outweigh the known and potential risks of COVID-19 infection. This study was conducted under the FDA BEST initiative, which plays a major role in the larger US federal government vaccine safety monitoring efforts and further supports regulatory decision-making regarding COVID-19 vaccine. So really, the regulatory decision-making, they have already answered that and saying, keep going. So at least here, they're not showing any. Actually, you would see further as I discuss this with you, that they would continue to say that this does not show causality, it is just an association. And then at one point, when they try to explain that why these seizures may be occurring, they try to put that on RSV virus or influenza virus and not vaccine. So here is an important and delicate point, and I want you to please give me your attention. Here is the data they're showing. They're saying mid-2022 to mid-2023. That is the period of this study. 2022's mid till this year's middle, about a year. Versus 2020. The seizures signal was statistically significant. However, when they compared mid-2022 to mid-2023 data to 2022 data, there was no signal. Did you catch this? This is very interesting. So they're saying when we compare this children's seizure data to year 2022, there is no difference. But if we compare that to 2020, there is a difference. So now let's see how do they try to explain this. They say, however, seizures, convulsions rates in this age group in 2022 were twice as high as 2020. So the seizures background rates in 2022 were twice as high as 2020. And when you compare the vaccination to 2020, there is statistically significant difference. When you compare to 2022, there is no difference. That means the incidence of seizure compared to 2020 is twice. So it doubled. So they now try to explain this. There could be a couple of potential reasons for elevated outcomes. First, there was an increased incidence of respiratory infections, influenza and respiratory syncytial virus, which are shown to be associated with febrile seizures in young children during this study period compared to 2020. They're saying in this study period, there were other viruses that were present and that are known to be causing febrile seizures. So maybe these are the ones, not the vaccines. Maybe these are the ones. That is their first explanation. The second explanation, in 2020, there were likely fewer emergency department visits for seizures-related events compared to 2022 because of COVID-19 pandemic healthcare resource limitation. I really find this difficult to digest this statement. Number one, they're saying likely. That means they don't have data. They're conjecturing. So those scientists who say, well, you should not conjecture, here is FDA conjecturing for you. And what they're conjecturing is the following. They're saying maybe in 2020, as the pandemic was raging, there were not enough healthcare resources available. That is why people who had their children had seizures were not bringing them to the hospital. So I have a question for those who have small children who may have had seizures. Would you not take, if you see a new seizure in your child, would you not take them to the hospital? I think it is more dangerous than chest pain, which may or may not be cardiac things. Secondly, children's resources, the ICUs and the wards and the children's parts are actually separated from adults' resources, and children were not filling up the hospitals as adults were. So this is a really strange way of explaining the difference. But I also want you to see that how FDA is conjecturing and explaining. And this is interesting for me to observe, because many times when we talk about some studies, the folks who try to always take side of FDA or CDC, they would look at other studies and say, well, this is a study where there are just conjectures. Here you have two conjectures. What are they trying to explain away? They're trying to explain away, is this may be associated with the vaccine? They keep saying it is seen after the vaccine. It does not show causality. And here is their explanation. That really bothered me. But anyways, that is their explanation. So some details. Number one, they did two types of testing of the data. They did something called sequential testing and descriptive testing. What they mean is that they had the data from these children originated and was present in the claims database. Out of 621 safety signals, there were 15 for which there was data present in the databases. So they were able to run the numbers on the data present in the databases. But there were 6 symptoms for which they didn't have the data, so they just made estimates. So that they called that descriptive, and they called looking at the data as sequential. And this was done every month. So I would just live with sequential. So they were looking at the data every month after children were vaccinated. First, they looked at the data with first and second dose after. So a child who receives the first dose, then receives the second dose, then has a safety signal, is what they looked at as a primary analysis. Then they did a secondary analysis in which they looked at first dose and the signal only, and then second dose and the signal. And they did that analysis too. The study population period, 6 to 17 years of age, that is a pediatric population definition in the US at least. And it was April 2023 for Optum, that is the database they had, March 2023 Keeldon, and February 2023 CVS. Now, I would like to review table 2 of this database with you. So if you give me 1 second to bring it up. I'm working with OBS today and it's a little different. So 1 second. Okay. So now you can't see me, but this is the PDF of the study, Safety of Monovalent. I'm going to go all the way towards the bottom of it, where they have table number 2. This is table 2. So in this table, what they're talking about is they're looking at dose of the vaccine, dose 1 plus dose 2, age of the child, 6 months, 5 to 6, and so on, number of vaccine doses, number of outcomes, percent time days, signal status. If the signal status is NT or NS, that means no signal. If it says S, that will mean a signal is detected. So in this huge list, which is of 21 signals, if I continue to go down, and if you can keep an eye on this column, this column, signal status column, you would see there are just 2 areas where it becomes S, and that is for signal present. You'll see that for myocarditis, pericarditis, and second for seizures. So I'm going to scroll down. Anaphylaxis, appendicitis, Bell's palsy, common thrombosis, deep vein thrombosis. And if I keep going, Guillain-Barré syndrome, hemorrhagic stroke, immune thrombosis, myocarditis. So here is the myocarditis, pericarditis here. And if you see here, signal, 2 doses, signal, 16 to 17, so 12 to 15, and 16 to 17, so 12 to 17, signal present. So this verifies that what they're looking is real. And then if you keep going, this is myocarditis, pericarditis, dose 2 here, signal present, again 12 to 15 and 16 to 17, so 12 to 17. Now if we continue to, and you see more signal here as well, this is also myocarditis, pericarditis. I want to go to the seizures, convulsions. And if you see here, dose 1 and 2, signal 2 to 4 to 5 years of age. Then signal, dose 1, 2 to 4 to 5 years of age. So they're seeing signal after dose 2, after dose 1, after both doses, and after both mRNA vaccines. They didn't have sufficient data for Novavax. But this signal, in my opinion, is actually stronger than the myocarditis, pericarditis, because myocarditis, pericarditis only appeared with Pfizer, not with Moderna, plus only in 12 to 17 years of age. So anyways, that is the discussion. The links for all of these studies and references are present in the description of this video. Normally what happens is that when we hang up for the video, then it takes YouTube another hour or so to make the description available, and the live chat becomes a chat and so on. And then the closed captions become available too. So with this, please like, subscribe, and share. Tomorrow, I have a doctor friend, my class fellow, over in San Francisco. So I'm going to be meeting them. So I will not be doing a lecture tomorrow. This is the lecture for this week. Like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work, there are some links in the description where you can support this work as well. Thank you very much, and I would see you next week.